What do you tell Broncos fans nervous about Von Miller right now? What do you tell them?
RELAX. Relax.
Okay.
Listen, Rich. Look what the Broncos have done here. Essentially, each time it seemed like there'd be no more movement, there was a little bit more movement, right? Like February, that was going to be it, and then they came back and made another offer. And the spring, that was going to be it, and they came back and made another offer. In June, that was going to be it, and lo and behold, this past weekend, they come back and make another offer. And if I'm Von Miller and his agents, I'm sitting there saying, okay, I think we're at an acceptable form of numbers right now. I think we're going to go and make one final push for some sweeteners here, some concessions, get it to exactly where we'd like it to be or as close to where we'd like it to be. And then, to me, they take the deal in the end. There's just too much at stake for both sides. And so I know that there's been a lot of acrimony, and this has been a tense negotiation, and there's been a lot of downs to it, more downs than ups. But I think in the end, ultimately, when push comes to shove, this deal gets done by the 4 o'clock Eastern deadline on Friday.
So is there any danger for any of the current players who have yet to sign their franchise tag that they are going to go past the deadline and say, I'm either not playing or we're going to figure out at some point that 1-year deal that can't be extended before the end of next season?
Look, there are 7 players, and I think that they fit into various categories at this particular time. I think there are certain categories or certain players that we can look at right now and say there's not going to be a deal. Tremaine Johnson, the Los Angeles Rams cornerback franchise player, there's not going to be an extension done there. Mo Wilkerson, the Jets defensive lineman, don't see an extension there. Alshon Jeffrey, the Bears wide receiver, don't see an extension there. Those 3 players I feel most certain about. Kirk Cousins as well, the Washington Redskins quarterback, don't see an extension there. There's 4. Eric Berry, nobody's optimistic right now. But, again, we saw Justin Houston get signed on the morning of the deadline last year, and the Chiefs could always make a last-ditch effort to try to get that deal done. There's a lot at stake emotionally, spiritually. That guy is the leader of that team. He's the heart and soul of that team. So it wouldn't surprise me if Casey came in at the last minute. But right now, as it stands, that's a tough one to work out. Then there are a few other players that you look at, or 2 other players specifically. Justin Tucker, the Ravens kicker.
Yes.
I know punters are people, Rich, but so are kickers.
They are. They've got heartbeats just like the rest of us, Adam.
And it should not be difficult to do that deal. You look at Steven Gostkowski's deal from last year. You adjust it up a little bit because it's a year later. The cap has gone up, and you figure out the number. That you and I could do that deal in 5 minutes, conceivably. So that should not be a hard deal to do, though it's a bit surprising it's gone on as long as it has. And then, of course, there's the Von Miller situation, which has seemed as acrimonious as any of these, but I still think in the end, logic and reasoning prevail, common sense prevails, and ultimately money prevails, and there's enough there in the end that it's going to be difficult for him to sit out. Now, he has said, I'm not going to play this year under the franchise tender, 14.2, and I think it's tremendous and admirable to say that in the middle of July. It's another thing to say that when the weekly paychecks of $140,000+ are going out of your bank account, you're not taking them up on that at that point in time. And again, for him to bypass the $14.2 million, that means essentially, we've heard the number $61 million guaranteed, that he had to get $75 million next year from somebody to make it worth sitting out this year. It doesn't seem feasible or logical. Again, you could say that, but they're still negotiating, and I think it's as much a negotiating tact as anything else.
So, but with Kirk Cousins, he's already signed his tender, and Correct. It seems that both sides are willing to play out another year to see if he can do, again, what he did last year. So are you saying that there's no long-term deals that are on the table for guys like Jeffrey and Wilkerson and Berry in Kansas City? And, you know, he won the comeback Player of the Year award for the ESPYs last night. I mean, is that what you're saying right now?
No, I'm saying that they're having discussions, that they're not anywhere close right now.
Okay.
The Chiefs have made offers. He's made counter-proposals. They're not in the same ballpark right now. That one could change. That one's still, again, not expected on Thursday. Could be a different story on Friday. I don't think so, but we'll see. Like, that's one there's a lot at stake. To me, the Kirk Cousins one is fascinating on a number of levels because they're not going to get a deal done. The two sides are way far apart, and Kirk Cousins is in a situation where he's in a real position of power here because he's tagged this year at $19.8 million. And should he go out this year and do just what he did last year, and I think personally he has a chance to be better because this is the first off season where we can say this is his team, his offense, his starting job. He's never been able to say that. There's always been the specter and shadow of RG3 looming in the distance. This is the first time it's really his team and job. So I think there's a little bit of a different mindset. Plus, there's the idea that you have $19.8 million in your pocket, which is the franchise number, and I think that in and of itself provides some mental security. So if he goes out and plays just the way he did last year, and the Redskins want to tag him again, the tag next year is north of $24 million. Now we're talking basically $44 million over 2 years. And should he play well again that year, and they want to tag him again, we're up to $78 million over 3 years. So he is in a great position of power, assuming he maintains or improves upon his level of performance from last year, which I personally think he will. And if he does, it's a tough one because the Redskins don't want to reward him for his play for just 1 year. They want to see him do it again. But the price of waiting for him to do it again could really cost them in the long run.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.